Thank you all for your valuable participation in the inauguration session. As we officially bring that segment of the event to a close, we shall now begin to proceed to the next segment of today's program. It is my distinct honor to welcome you to the Tarapad Chaudhari Memorial Lecture, a prominent feature of CAICE 2024. This lecture, titled The Climate Environment Nexus, Understanding the Interconnected Risks and Opportunities, is dedicated to celebrating Professor Tarapad Chaudhari's enduring contribution and his commitment to advancing knowledge and fostering excellence in economics. This lecture stands as a testament to his remarkable legacy and serves as a guiding light for the future generation of economists. We are delighted to announce that Professor Bishwambher Pyakuryal will be joining us as a distinguished speaker for this lecture. We eagerly anticipate his insights and contribution to our discussions. As we begin the Tarapad Chaudhari Memorial Lecture, it is my privilege to introduce our esteemed moderator, Assistant Professor at Central Department of Economics, Tribhuvan University, who also serves as the convener of this conference. We are honored to have him guide us through this important session. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Navin Adhikari with a huge round of applause. I would like to hand over this mic to Navin Adhikari and formally request him to invite our esteemed speaker to this stage and hand over the conference kit.
Thank you so much, Jyoti. I'm delighted to be here apprising you of the Tarapad Chaudhari Memorial Lecture, the lecture dedicated to the Professor Emeritus Tarapad Chaudhari. Respected my guru, my mentor, my Professor Bishwambher Pyakuryal, my gurus and Guru Ama in the front row, my mentors, my colleagues. First of all, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to my esteemed Guru for granting me the honor to stand before you today. I humbly ask for your forgiveness as I take the liberty to introduce you and say a few words about Professor Chaudhary. यो लाइन चाहिँ मलाई नेपालीमै भन्न मन लाग्यो सर. सरको अगाडि उभिने दुष्प्रयास र दुस्साहस गरेकोमा माफ चाहन्छु. भुलचुक भए चाहिँ शिष्यलाई क्षमा दिनु होला. First, let me say a few words about Tarapad Chaudhari. So we all know, we have heard so many stories about Tarapad Chaudhari. So Professor Chaudhari spent a saint life. He was born and raised in India and moved to Nepal in 1960 under the academic exchange program of the Colombo Plan to work as a professor. After a few years at Tribhuvan University, he went back to India in 1969 and come back again in Nepal in 1975, and he stayed here in Nepal for forever. I might be wrong with the dates, so my respected gurus are here. So I hope they will make the corrections on that date. But whatever piece of information that is available to us, so based on that information, so I'm saying something about Professor Chaudhari. He was the founding professor of the Central Department of Economics at Tribhuvan University and served there until his last breath in 2003. He is the first recipient of the honor of Professor Emeritus from the Tribhuvan University. We also have Tarapad Chaudhari Fund, as indicated by our Vice Chancellor this morning, that is instituted at the Tribhuvan University, and this fund is used to provide the research grant to the faculties in economics. The fund is also used to confer a Tarapad Chaudhari Gold Medal every year to the highest scorer of MA in Economics program at TU. Professor Chaudhari received his master's degree in 3 different subjects: mathematics in 1937, statistics in 1944, and economics in 1954 from the Calcutta University, and completed PhD in economics from the London School of Economics in 1954. Earlier, he was a professor at the Indian Statistical Institute. Today's keynote speech, therefore, Tarapad Chaudhari Memorial Lecture is therefore dedicated to him as a memory and tribute to recognize his selfless contribution to the academic excellence of CEDECON and Tribhuvan University. When I was actually drafting something about Professor Tarapad Chaudhari, the piece of information that the first thing that we do is to Google about him. And interestingly, whatever information that we found were all placed by the Central Department of Economics. We have placed somewhere in our website and so on. So actually, there is not much of the information available about him. And I remember, actually, it made me nostalgic when I recall, my first encounter with him as a master student. I feel fortunate to have encountered him once during his visit to the department when Professor Parthiveshwar Prasad Timishina brought him. And my second encounter with him was unfortunately at his funeral on the January 22, 2003. During that time, we students of the Economics Student Society were working on the publication as a publication for the Economics Student Society known as the ECOS. I recall sitting with the Babuk Dai is here, Vikas Raul Dai from thesis year, myself from the second year, an energetic team of the first year students, Resam, Nirmal, and Khagendra, planning to write something in honor of Professor Chaudhari. I would like to share a few lines. The publication is with me, so what we have written in April, back in 2003, month of April back in 2003. So I just like to, recite these 2 lines actually. He was not an individual. So there is the top we have written, he was not an individual, he was an institution, he was not a person, and he was a personality. Now, nearly after 2 decades, I realize how profoundly true these words still are. Professor Chaudhari was not merely an individual, he was surrounded by the attributes that make him extraordinary. Simplicity was at core of his life. For example, his daily attire was a plain cotton shirt and pajama. And his meals were simple, dal roti or dal chamal, even the usune ko chamal only. His views on the society were just straightforward. I remember Professor Pyakuryal saying someday that Professor Chaudhari never believed that policemen actually drink, because that will have, if they started drinking, then that will have the devastating implication to the society. So his understanding about this life were also simple. So Professor Chaudhari was an institution. His selfless dedication to the university and Central Department of Economics, the Tarapad Chaudhari Memorial Lecture, which we hold this every year, is one way to honor his legacy and recognize his mark he left on our department and in the field of economics. He was just a scholar. He was not just a scholar. He was a guiding light, an example of the humility and service. Now, please allow me to introduce today's speaker, my guru, Professor Bishwambher Pyakuryal. Allow me to now briefly introduce today's speaker, who will deliver the Tarapad Chaudhari Memorial Lecture. Professor Bishwambher Pyakuryal is a pioneer economist belonging to Nepal's first generation of economists. That is my interpretation. And he has been instrumental in bringing the economics into the mainstream, whether it is on the academic institutions, whether it is on the media, and so many places. His efforts have made society aware of the importance of economics in shaping our nation. I resonate deeply with the sentiment that Professor Pyakuryal has become the Ganesh of Nepal's economics fraternity. No significant event or ritual in the field of economics feels complete without his presence. So we are very honored to have you here, sir, for the lecture. So Professor Pyakuryal taught and conducted research at the Tribhuvan University, Nepal for almost 4 decades. He holds a double master's in economics and international affairs and PhD in economics from Nepal and USA. As a senior Fulbright scholar, he has also completed postdoctoral research in economics from the university in USA. Professor Pyakuryal has been ambassador of Nepal to Sri Lanka and Maldives. He holds posts at many centers of repute around the world. For example, he has been the professional associate at the East-West Center, Honolulu, a scholar in residence at Rockefeller Foundation in Italy, a visiting scholar at the International Food Policy Research Institute in Washington, D.C. Professor Pyakuryal was the chairman of South Asia Cooperative Environment Program, an intergovernmental organization comprised of 8 countries based in Colombo, and also the chairman of Standing Committee of the Colombo Plan comprised of 27 member countries. Dr. Pyakuryal is the president of Nepal Economic Association, founding chairman of the Institute for Strategic and Socio-Economic Research, Kathmandu. He was member of the board of Nepal's Central Bank, Nepal Rashtra Bank, a member of the Trade Advisory Committee headed by the Prime Minister, a chairman of the High-Level Public Expenditure Commission of the Government of Nepal, a commissioner of the Independent South Asian Commission on the Poverty Alleviation, a commissioner of the Electricity Tariff Fixation Committee, Government of Nepal. He was a member of the Advisory Board of Office of the Auditor General. Professor Pyakuryal is an editorial advisory board of the South Asian Economic Journal, published jointly by IPS, Colombo, and RIS, New Delhi, and the Development Cooperation Review by the RIS. Professor Pyakuryal has written and co-authored and edited 13 books and published research articles in accredited national and international journals. During 2022-24, Professor Pyakuryal has delivered keynote speeches as a visiting professor at Gansu University, Seoul, and Kim Young University, South Korea. Dr. Pyakuryal has been international consultant to almost 24 of the UN agencies, the development partners such as World Bank, IFC, Asian Development Bank, UNDP, and among others. So with that brief introduction of the Professor Chaudhari and Professor Pyakuryal, now I would like to request Professor Pyakuryal to deliver this year's Tarapad Chaudhari Memorial Lecture, 2024. Thank you.
Is there a question and answer? No. I don't need a. I need my glass. Thank you, Naveen. I'm extremely happy to be here because I would see about 6 generations already here at the university. My guru, Professor Timilsina. So far I remember, beyond him, I don't have any gurus now left. And then I started teaching long time ago, late 1974. And then until 2012, I was professor at the department. So altogether, I had spent about 53 years of my golden years, more than half century, I spent at Tribhuvan University campus as a student, as a faculty. So whenever I receive any invitation from the department, I really become pretty much sentimental. I'm today talking about the great guru, Tarapad Chaudhari, with whom I spent more than 2.5 decades at the university. When he came here in the beginning, during the early years of economics department. By the way, economics department was 10 years younger than me. And then when it was 15 years old, I started teaching at the university. So you can very well imagine how long I have been affiliated with the Central Department of Economics. After Timil Sinha sir assumed lots of responsibility at the university, I was made by them the head of Economics Instruction Committee. And I was the head of Department of Economics. And then ultimately, I happened to become the first head of the Central Department of Economics. When Central Department of Economics was coined by Tribhuvan University, and then I was fortunate enough to take the responsibility. So I took that responsibility for almost 10 years. I couldn't complete that. So Tarapad Chaudhari ji was such a person who I didn't have opportunity to be his student, but after he was retired in Calcutta, he came back here for good. So I was with him until his last breath. So he died at teaching hospital. I still remember that day. It was pretty much shocking. He was getting fragile and weak. So with the support from Tribhuvan University, we managed to forcefully send a caretaker at his professor's quarter at Kirtipur. At the age of 75, 78, I guess, he used to cook himself. He used to wash his clothes. Finally, he couldn't do anything, so he was hospitalized. So this is my memory. I know so many things about him. So with the consent of the then registrar, Professor Timil Sinha, we established a fund in his name, Tarapad Chaudhari. He was the chairperson and I was the coordinator. And we had a committee constituted. And that fund, for the first time, was handled by the Central Department of Economics itself. Previously, Tarapad Chaudhari sourced money, whatever resources he had deposited. Every year during Dasara, I used to go to Kolkata. And I used to accompany him to the Darbar Marg at one of the well-known travel agents. And then he used to purchase tickets from there. He went back to Kolkata for a couple of weeks, and then whatever pension he got, he brought that money back, and then he spent whole year in Kathmandu at Tribhuvan University. He didn't take even a single penny. So I requested him to be the patron of his fund. Now I will take care of rest of other things. So then a lot of activities started during that time period. So I have a long memory because my main theme is to remember him and then say a few words about the climate and environment. Because based on my discussion with Naveen and other committee members, organizing committee members, whatever kind of structure we prepared demands at least 45 to 50 minutes. I don't know if you guys will have patience to listen to me. So I request you, mercifully, you have mercy on me and listen to my lousy lecture. Because this structure compels me to spend that time. Because I have tried my level best to accommodate whatever issues are quite pertinent in recent years with regards to the nexus between climate change and environment. So let me go back to my own notes so that I won't deviate. Because teaching at the university for 4 decades, if you get the mic, this is the only place where students would never tell you, sir, we feel lousy, you just go out. So nobody said that to me during my whole life. And then sometimes I do strongly feel like if you have a structured notes in hand, you don't deviate, So you don't bore the audience as much as you like. So let me get back to my notes. I have a couple of issues that I have tried to raise. How climate change shapes our world initially, and then interconnected risks and opportunities. The climate change and environmental protection, institutional arrangements for environment economics program in Nepal. This history is necessary to understand what way we really initiated economics of environment in Nepal. And then I would like to talk a little bit about the key climatic environmental problems in Kathmandu Valley. When I will raise a couple of issues about the constraints and opportunities, then you will probably understand the efficacy of picking up Kathmandu Valley as a problem-oriented center. And then I'll be talking about climate change and environmental related policies in Nepal, how it was developed. What are the current direction, trend and policy in climate change and environment? And then the young generations, the hope for the future. What young generation needs to do. So how to get young generation involved in environment and degradation. And then I would like to make a concluding remark. So ladies and gentlemen, now I come back to the main issue. Esteemed guests from different countries and fellow advocates for climate action, before I present my brief observations on climate change and environment, let me quote a Native American proverb which says, "We do not inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children." So it indicates the importance of maintenance, sustainability in environmental management globally. We come together today at a crucial juncture in our history. The need for urgent and effective climate action has never been more pressing. In today's world, we experience the delicate balance of our planet's ecosystems being shifted faster than ever before. We gather today not just to discuss the challenges we face, but to explore the urgent actions needed to safeguard our future. Climate study has become essential to forecast several outcomes, including the volume of rainfall that current climate may generate and the degree to which sea levels will rise as a consequence of increased ocean temperatures. The study offers valuable insights into the threats posed to human beings and wildlife species and aids in pioneering the region's most impacted locations by extreme weather events. The interconnected now risks and opportunities. Biodiversity loss, extreme weather events, food security, health risks, and economic disruption can be understood as risks, and green jobs, innovation, resilience building, international cooperation, sustainable development can represent as opportunities in the study between climate change and the environment. It is crucial for developing effective strategies to mitigate climate impacts and build a more sustainable future. Policy failure in climate change has led to catastrophic consequences, including sea level rise, ecosystem collapse, food and water insecurity, and threats to human health and well-being. The costs of inaction far outweigh the costs of action. Transitioning to a low-carbon economy presents opportunities for innovation, job creation, and economic growth in renewable energy, sustainable transportation, and green technologies. Investing in climate solutions is an economic imperative. This is sad that climate change has disproportionately impacted the world's poorest and most marginalized communities. Prioritizing climate adaptation and resilience is therefore essential for reducing poverty, inequality, and vulnerability. There is no denying that addressing climate change requires protecting and restoring natural ecosystems like forests, wetlands, and oceans that provide critical services like carbon sequestration, flood protection, and biodiversity. Healthy environments are the foundation for human well-being. The habitat loss, changing climate conditions, and environmental degradation has caused many species at risk of extinction. Glacial lake outburst floods pose a significant risk in Nepal. Research indicates that as glaciers retreat, water accumulates behind moraine dams, heightening the risk of catastrophic outbursts. These events have already inflicted significant damage and loss of life in the affected regions. The protection of environment has helped preserve biodiversity, which is so essential for ecosystem stability and resilience. The world is witnessing significant economic losses through infrastructure damages, a reduction in agricultural yields, and soaring costs of disaster response and recovery. Investing in environmental sustainability is therefore a priority policy issue to mitigate such risks and creating long-term economic benefits. Resource management for a finite natural resources such as water, soil, and forests needs to be a policy option as an effective environmental stewardship. We have a moral obligation to protect the planet for future generations as a livable world, and environmental issues are linked to global challenges of poverty, inequality, and public health. Addressing climate change and environmental degradation can have positive ripple effects across these areas. Now, I would like to give you a brief account on how environmental economics program was initiated in Nepal. The increasing recognition of environmental challenges has led to the integration of environmental economics into policy making. Early environmental efforts centered on managing and conserving Nepal's rich natural resources like forest, water, and biodiversity. These initiatives were primarily driven by the need to sustain livelihoods and ecological balance. While the importance of these resources was acknowledged, their economic value was often overlooked. Secondly, conservation efforts were largely driven by ecological concerns rather than economic incentives. With this in mind, we initiated Environmental Economics Program at International Union for Conservation of Nature, Nepal Country Office in 1998. I took a leave at the request of IUCN Nepal without pay, and then I joined IUCN Nepal Country Office at the request of Global IUCN. So I worked there for almost 1 year, not even complete 1 year. And we started Environmental Economics Program in Nepal in 1998, aiming to integrate economic development with environmental policy. This was the first Environmental Economics Program initiated by IUCN Nepal, supported by Global IUCN. This program conducted some research by analyzing governmental fiscal policies and their environmental implications, emphasizing the need to internalize environmental costs in economic decision making. Two significant publications were made public, linking economic development and environmental policy in Nepal and environmental economics in Nepal. If CEDECON would be interested to procure these copies, they may contact IUCN Country Office, Nepal. I think they should have. Whatever books, whatever original text that all I had, this is because of the climate change. This year, the flood took away everything that I had. By mistake, my family members threw all the valuable documents on the first floor of my house. We were abroad that time, and then everything went off. So I don't have any justification to say that I did this, I did that, because I don't have the documents right now. In Nepal, environmental economics has emerged as a tool to assess the economic costs and benefits of environmental policies. To strengthen the case for environmental protection, initiatives were launched to quantify the economic value of ecosystem services, such as water purification, carbon sequestration, and biodiversity. At the request of the Environmental Economic Program of IUCN headquarters in Bern, Switzerland, I was honored to provide orientation to the government officials in Hanoi. The workshop hosted by the National Environmental Agency's Policy and Legislation Division in Hanoi, Vietnam, that took place on October 21, 1999. As a follow-up, this effort to refine environmental valuation methodologies continued both domestically and internationally. As financing and resource mobilization has been a challenge to conserve biodiversity, some efforts were made. During the Global Biodiversity Forum on Financial Innovations for Biodiversity held in Bratislava, Slovak Republic in 1998, public opinion was gathered to explore available sources for diversity preservation by presenting a paper on prospects of financing biodiversity conservation in Nepal. At the initial stage, alternative mechanism to generate resources for financing biodiversity was explored. Later, we made significant contribution in preparing a scoping paper on the economics of biodiversity for internet site in Gland, Switzerland. These were few valuable experiences of IUCN Nepal's Environmental Economics Division, which at a later stage collaborated with CEDECON to initiate environmental economics program. Through collaboration, IUCN Nepal was able to introduce an EE course at the master's level in economics programs. This initiative had significantly contributed to the understanding and integration of environmental economics in Nepal. However, subsequent years have been limited interest in expanding the EE program or generating student enthusiasm. To effectively operationalize the EE program and integrate it into the country's development agenda, several preconditions are necessary, such as advanced training for environmental economists, proper infrastructure, capacity development programs, and a dedicated section on environmental economics documents at the CEDECON library. South Asia's pressing environmental challenges necessitated the establishment of a dedicated research platform. In the meantime, I was requested to collaborate with Priya Shyamsundar and Manik Dugar to launch the South Asian Network for Development and Environmental Economics, which is called SANDI now, everybody knows about it, in Kathmandu in November 1999. I'm happy to share my experience to you all that I was fortunate enough to be one of the founding members of SANDI in Nepal in 1999. This not too many people know because we don't advertise. Initially housed at Ayush, Nepal, Sandy was founded with the explicit goal of conducting applied research to address the region's complex environmental and development issues. Currently, it is an initiative at issue mode. Key climate and environmental problems in Kathmandu Valley. The valley's bowl-like topography, which traps pollutants, intensifying health risks for residents, rapid urbanization, limited natural resources, increased threat to preserve rich cultural and historical heritage, environmental degradation impacting the economy and livelihoods as a result of tourism dependence are some of the issues that necessitate developing framework for mitigating climate change and environmental degradation in Kathmandu Valley. Also, Kathmandu Valley, as the heart of Nepal and a densely populated urban center, faces unique and pressing environmental challenges that also requires immediate and focused attention to mitigate the adverse impacts on the environment, public health, and the economy. Air quality and health issues. The Kathmandu Valley is facing severe impacts from climate change and environmental degradation, which threaten its socio-economic stability, public health, and natural ecosystems. Kathmandu suffers from some of the worst air pollution globally, worsened by climate change. As stated before, the city's geography traps pollutants, and rising temperatures are predicted to exacerbate air quality by reducing rainfall, which is essential for clearing airborne contaminants. This pollution leads to serious health problems, including respiratory issues and increased mortality rates. Reports indicate that air pollution in Kathmandu accounts for around 5,000 deaths annually, highlighting a critical public health crisis. Kathmandu's air quality index, AQI level had remained between very unhealthy and hazardous levels. The WHO reports recently has come out with the statistical information. The report that pollution levels in Kathmandu are approximately 4.9 times higher than recommended limits, leading to respiratory diseases, cardiovascular issues, and other health complications among residents. Air pollution and CO2 monitoring schemes needs to be immediately strengthened. Although moderate rainfall is necessary in the valley, increased rainfall extremes due to climate change are leading to severe urban flooding in Kathmandu. This flooding results in significant socio-economic consequences, including damage to infrastructure, disruption of services, and increased vulnerability for the urban poor who often reside in flood-prone areas. The changing precipitation patterns complicate water management, affecting both drinking water supply and agricultural practices, which are vital for the local economy. The valley is experiencing prolonged dry periods and reduced water availability, which directly impacts agriculture, a key livelihood for many residents. Decreased soil moisture and prolonged droughts can lead to crop failures, threatening food security and economic stability. Biodiversity loss and ecosystem degradation. Biodiversity loss and degradation of natural ecosystems is largely the result of climate change in Kathmandu Valley. Landslides and glacial lake outburst floods poses risks to both human settlements and natural habitats. This is largely because of the increased frequency of extreme weather conditions. The valley's diverse ecosystems, which provide essential services like groundwater recharge and erosion control, are increasingly threatened, impacting both local communities and wildlife. Impact on marginalized groups. Women, indigenous communities, and other marginalized groups face a disproportionate burden from the effects of climate change. These populations frequently lack the necessary resources and support systems to effectively adapt to environmental shifts, resulting in compounded disadvantages that impact their health, limit economic opportunities, and reduce their resilience to climate-related disasters. We need to ensure the sustainability of the valley's ecosystems and well-being of its residents. The severe impacts of climate change and environmental degradation in the Kathmandu Valley present urgent challenges that require comprehensive strategies for mitigation and adaptation. Life-threatening conditions. The global CO2 levels have reached unprecedented highs, and projections indicate a potential rise of over 3 degrees by the end of this century. The climate impact studies and economic analysis, including the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, warn that such a scenario would be disastrous, potentially reducing global GDP by 20% by 2050 and creating life-threatening conditions for 3/4 of the global population by century's end. The jet stream is a fast-moving air current in the upper atmosphere that affects weather patterns. Climate change is making these air currents more unpredictable, causing them to meander and leading to longer periods of extreme weather in different areas. A recent study published in the journal Nature Communications revealed scientists warning that changes in the jet stream could result in crop failures around the world, threatening food security and pushing an additional 80 million people into extreme hunger by 2050. It is clear that we cannot keep living unsustainably. To protect both humanity and our planet, we must take action and change our course now. Climate change and environmental related policies. Nepal has set an ambitious target of achieving net zero emissions by 2045, outpacing the 2050 goal adopted by the European Union and many other countries. In contrast, major carbon emitters like China and India have set later deadlines of 2060 and 2070, respectively, to reach NZE. Environment Protection Act 1996 and Environment Protection Regulations 1997 have been adopted for the conservation of the environment acts. Acts that are promulgated have covered pollution control, waste management, biodiversity conservation, and environmental impact assessment. Current direction and policy. As you move into 2024, the trends indicate a critical year for climate action, marked by legislative advancements, corporate accountability, and a collective push towards sustainable practices. The integration of environmental considerations into business models and governance will be essential for addressing the ongoing climate crisis and its associated risks. Cities play a crucial role in our efforts to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees centigrade, which is essential for creating a sustainable future for coming generations. To meet this target, we must reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 40 to 50% from 2010 levels by 2030. Achieving this will require significant and transformative changes in how we plan, design, build, and manage urban areas. Both national and local governments are key in shaping public behavior and enhancing awareness regarding the importance of environmental stewardship and sustainable practices. Also, countries are expected to submit updated nationally determined contributions under the Paris Agreement with a target of reducing emissions by about 60% by 2035 to meet climate goals. There has been viable impact of extreme weather. The frequency and severity of extreme weather events are escalating, with 2023 being the hottest year on record. This trend is expected to continue into 2024, prompting businesses and governments to adapt their strategies to mitigate risks associated with climate impacts. Climate change litigation is an emerging body of environmental law. Currently, we see a rise in climate change litigation with over 230 new cases filed in 2023. However, it is being recorded that nearly 50 of the more than 230 cases are not aligned with climate goals, and therefore some cases challenging climate action. These cases often seek to hold governments and corporations accountable for their climate actions, highlighting the legal landscape's role in driving climate accountability. Nepal's distinct topographical divisions, such as the mountains, hills, and Tarai, poses various environmental challenges, including deforestation, climate change, and biodiversity loss, destruction of natural habitat, overgrazing, land fragmentation, commercialization of agriculture, indiscriminate use of pesticides, population growth, and urbanization is pushing agrobiodiversity under threat. Deforestation and land degradation have affected a large population of the proportion of the population, creating severe consequences for economic growth and livelihoods. Similarly, forest loss has contributed to floods and landslides. The extent of climate change impact can be seen when we consider the fact that Nepal is ranked 4th globally in terms of vulnerability to climate change. Floods, landslides, and glacial lake outbursts are increasing in frequency and intensity. Climate change could spread malaria and dengue to new areas of the Himalayas. It is estimated that chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases is the second leading cause of death in Nepal after ischemic heart disease. Diarrhea and low respiratory infections are also major causes of death. Additionally, long-term conflict and war have disrupted environmental governance, leading to unsustainable practice that further harm the climate. Missiles projections, the practices under the sea, etc., during the global war that's going on today. I have purposely added 2 more sentences to make aware that long-term conflict and war have disrupted environmental governance, leading to unsustainable practices that further harm the climate. Climate vulnerability is impacting agriculture, infrastructure, and energy imports. The World Bank estimates Nepal could lose 2.2% of annual GDP by 2050 due to climate change. Although the economic losses vary from year to year, some estimates also show that floods, landslides, and other disasters have caused over $699 million damages annually. The takeaway is each fraction of a degree in global warming is significant. If left unchecked, climate change poses a serious threat to SDGs, our collective plan to safeguard the future of people and the planet by 2030. Currently, we are witnessing an increase in extreme weather events, with natural disasters occurring 3 times more frequently than they did 50 years ago. Now the young generations, the hope for future. The current climate crisis offers critical lessons that we must need to shape a sustainable future. Here are some key takeaways and policy advice tailored for the younger generation. There is huge expectation that the youth can take proactive steps. When teaching students about climate change, it is crucial to adjust the aforementioned information according to their age and developmental stage. For younger students, it is not necessary to delve into the more alarming predictions. Instead, focus on empowering them with knowledge about sustainability and positive impact they can make through simple, everyday actions. In other words, the younger generation should be equipped with knowledge about environmental issues, sustainable practices, and the importance of conservation. Countries like Italy are leading the way by integrating climate change into their national curriculum, ensuring that students learn about sustainability from a young age. Education should not only cover the science of climate change, but also promote critical thinking about sustainability and environmental stewardship. Although not very common practice to involve youths in local decision-making processes, they should attend town hall meetings which are designed for local and regional officials to hear the community's views on public issues. Such participation in community discussions has helped to advocate for policies that prioritize environmental sustainability and climate resilience. Reducing waste, conserving energy, and supporting local and sustainable businesses are like adopting sustainable practices. The youth should lead by example in adopting such practices. In other words, they should share sustainable practices within their communities to inspire others. The youth can use social media and digital platforms to raise awareness about climate issues and mobilize peers. In several developing countries, they have initiated campaigns that highlight the importance of climate action and engage in discussions that challenge misinformation. We must also develop green skills for green jobs, including in environmental and renewable energy sectors. The young and energetic generation should collaborate with older generations to share knowledge, experiences, and strategies for addressing climate change, ensuring that solutions are inclusive and comprehensive. Now my last paragraph, the conclusions. Climate has worsened existing social issues, including poverty, inequality, and food security. It has served as a threat multiplier, highlighting the need to tackle these interconnected challenges in a comprehensive way. For example, achieving the Goal 1 target of SDG to reduce poverty at least by half the proportion of men, women, and children of all ages living in poverty by 2030 becomes highly challenging, especially given the projections that an additional 100 million people could fall into extreme poverty by 2030 if no action is taken. These estimates are largely based on climate-related impacts such as floods and droughts. 2/3 of Nepal's economy is reliant on climate-sensitive sectors like agriculture and forestry. Despite commendable initiatives, floods and landslides continue to threaten development, necessitating further investments in resilient infrastructure and comprehensive disaster risk management strategies. Adaptation strategies must be tailored to local contexts and involve stakeholders at all levels. While the challenges posed by climate change can be daunting, it is crucial to instill a sense of hope. The young generation must understand that their actions can contribute to positive change, and they should be encouraged to advocate for sustainable practices and policies. There has been a historical lack of air quality monitoring and health impact assessment data in Nepal, which complicates efforts to quantify the exact medical costs associated with air pollution. The government should expedite establishing monitoring stations and collect data. Current institutional frameworks for adaptation have obstacles, including unclear goals, lack of alignment between related policy goals, and capacity gaps due to funding and resource constraints. Mainstreaming climate adaptation requires political leadership, supportive policies, financial resources, and a learning culture. Climate change affects men and women differently. Gender differentiated data and a gender just approach as needed to address these differences in climate actions. Finally, the world is prepared for the second replenishment period of the Green Climate Fund, which will run from January 1, 2024 to December 31st, 2027. More support for developing countries to achieve climate ambitions can be expected. This includes strengthening the activities in education and increasing the resilience of young people to help them cope with the inevitable impacts of climate change. Climate change will reach every industry, office, and home. To end, let me again quote Kofi Annan. The world is reaching a tipping point beyond which climate change may become irreversible. So if you don't do anything right now, we'll be gone. Thank you for your patient listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. On behalf of the entire CEDECON family, Central Department of Economics family, I would like to extend our heartfelt thanks for delivering the prestigious Tarapad Chaudhari Memorial Lecture. Your insightful and thought-provoking presentation has not only honored the legacy of Professor Chaudhari, but also inspired us all with in-depth and relevance of the contemporary economic challenges such as environmental and climate change. We're deeply grateful for your valuable time and continued contributions to the field of economics. Thank you for making this event truly memorable. Before I hand over this mic to Jyoti, one more information that we usually do. So this Tarapad Chaudhari Memorial Lecture will be uploaded in our website, so you can have there. Not only this series, but we have also uploaded the past series. So last time we had Professor Dr. Gunnidhi Sharma, just for your record. And then very first time, Professor Dr. Parthiveshwar Prasad Timisina, he delivered this Tarapad Chaudhari lecture. So we are also planning to have a compendium of these lectures along with the Chaudhari sir's articles that wherever we can find, and then make a manuscript. One more thing before, I would like to share an exciting project, our third semester, who are busy on the exam. Actually, third semester students are working on, they are preparing a manuscript about Professor Chaudhari's life, because we always felt like there is limited written information about Professor Chaudhari, starting from his childhood through his academic journey and highlighting his immense contribution to the Tribhuvan University. So we just want to, write down that as a manuscript. We know and we have heard so many stories about Professor Chaudhari, but it is not in a documented form. So we also aim to document that many interesting stories that surround his legacy. In this regard, we'll be deeply grateful. Actually, our students have already approached Professor Timisina and Professor Pyakuryal, but in addition, that we'd be very deeply grateful if our respected professors could share any piece of information to the department, whether it's a photograph, written pieces, or personal anecdotes related to Professor Chaudhary. I just want to recall that the Professor Chaudhary's photo that we have used in our conference proceeding is actually the one that we used 20 years back in 2003. So we are actually missing up those beautiful photographs and group photo and so on. So every detail will help us enrich this manuscript and honor his memory. We plan to share those documented pieces in terms of publications next year. Now I would like to hand this microphone to Jyoti.
एउटा इन्फर्मेसन मात्रै सेयर गर्न खोजेको हाम्रो नयाँ बिल्डिङ जुन बनेको छ I was extremely happy, excited to see that building. Yesterday we had that opportunity, we were invited there. त्यहाँ हाम्रो एउटा पुरानो बिल्डिङमा हुँदाखेरि तारापद चौधरी सर समेतकै तिमिलसेना सर हामीहरूको ग्रुपको प्रोफेसर मदन दाहाल, we missed him desperately. उहाँको पनि धेरै ठुलो कन्ट्रिब्युसन छ इकोनोमिक्स डिपार्टमेन्टको लागि. त्यो एउटा हाम्रो ग्रुप फोटो छ कि त्यो हराएको छैन भने यो नयाँ बिल्डिङमा कतै जस्ट टु रिमेम्बर तारापद चौधरी सर एन्ड हाउ ही लुक लाइक. हामीहरू त्यो बेलामा यो बेलामा टिचर हुँदाखेरि कस्ता थियौँ त्यो सबै त्यहाँ देखिन्छ. त्यसैले त्यो राख्यो भने एउटा हिस्ट्री हो. नयाँ स्टुडेन्ट्सहरूलाई तारापद चौधरी यो रहेछ भनेर देखिन्छ. हामीहरू सबै छौँ त्यो फोटोमा. दुई तिन किसिमको फोटो छ. सर जहिले बोलाए पनि आउनुहुन्थ्यो. फोटो कन्सर्नको तल आएर त खिच्नुभयो उहाँले होइन. त्यस कारण त्यो फोटो चाहिँ नहराओस् मात्र भन्न खोजेँ.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Pyakuryal, and our moderator for this session, Navin Adhikari, for your valuable insights. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to invite the esteemed Head of Central Department of Economics at Tribhuvan University, Professor Dr. Ramprasad Gyawali, to kindly come to this stage to present a token of respect and gratitude to Professor Dr. Bishwambher Pyakuryal, a distinguished figure whose contribution in this lecture has been invaluable. As a mark of appreciation and deep respect, Professor Dr. Gyawali will bestow upon him a dosalla, a traditional Nepalese gesture symbolizing reverence and honor. I would like to request our volunteers to please facilitate. Please join me in welcoming Professor Dr. Gyawali to the stage with a warm round of applause.
Token of appreciation. This token of appreciation is presented to Professor Bishwambher Pyakuryal, PhD, in recognition of delivering the Tarapad Chaudhari Memorial Lecture at the CEDECON's annual International Conference in Economics, CAICE 2024, hosted by the Central Department of the Economics, Tribhuvan University, on the day of September 21, 2024. Central Department of the Economics, Tribhuvan University, Kirtipur, Kathmandu.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Ramprasad Gyawali. Professor Dr. Bishwambher Pyakuryal, and our esteemed moderator Naveen Adhikari for gracing the stage and being part of this special moment. We are deeply honored by your presence. I now humbly request you to kindly return to your seats. Thank you once again for your valuable contribution. Ladies and gentlemen, let us extend our sincere appreciation with a warm round of applause. Thank you all for your thoughtful participation in Tarapad Chaudhari Memorial Lecture. We deeply appreciate the